The utilization of the Schematron in the e-invoicing in Finland. So there has been a lot of discussion about those invoices according to the European norm and how to validate it. And well, this is an introduction for the Schematron that what we have created. This is not a technical presentation, so this is not about the content of the Schematron and the rules in the Schematron, but the overall presentation of the Schematron and the work what we have done. So the first question is that why the Schematron is created. So the background for the Schematron to validate the e-invoices according to the European norm is the directive, and also the act on the electronic invoicing. And about 2 years ago, 5th of November, we had a e-invoice forum operator group meeting where we discussed about this matter, and there was a proposal for common Schematron about to validate the e-invoices, and there should be some kind of verification tool also. So we discussed that in that meeting, and since Tapani Turunen from Tieto Finland was the one who raised this subject, so the group was fair and decided to choose Tapani as the leader of the group. When we started to create the Schematron first, we asked some tenders, and we decided then to choose the Posti messaging as the contractor. The best offer has also the lowest price. And then we asked the willing participants to work in the definition working group, and well, the willing ones were Posti messaging, Ropo Capital, CGI, Tieto, and then the Finance Finland, also known as Finanssiala. Then the working group started to work, and the working group decided to create the Schematron to support the Finnish e-invoicing standards, which are called the Finvoice and the TEAPS XML. Group highlighted a number of challenges and the potential problems, since the group had a lot and a long experience of the e-invoicing. And then we also got some support from the tax administration, for example, to have the acceptable accuracy when we do the calculations. Group made a lot of practical decisions. We decided not to use the code list checking, since the code lists usually change quite often. So for example, this EAS code list, now it has the 7th version in use in 2 years. So it will be some kind of never-ending story if we start to check all the codes that they are correct. And in some cases, it would be also impossible to check whether the code is correct or not. So what are the benefits when and if using the Schematron as a validation tool? So there is, of course, there is a schema for Finvoice and also for the TEAPS, but using the schema validation, it doesn't allow as high quality as you can have with the Schematron. So with the schema, you can see that there is sufficient content for the message, but it's not about the quality. The schema takes only a position of the structure of the material and appropriate lengths and some code restrictions, but the expressive power it is very limited. But the Schematron that doesn't comment on the structure at all, so it is more about the data integrity requirements, and there is those rule checks. So the best way is to use both the schema for the structure and the Schematron for the content. So when you can validate the content using the Schematron, you can have also the higher higher quality for the invoice data, but also it enables a better automation possibilities when do the invoice processing. So the benefits. The content requirements of the invoice data, they are checked when reading the data in the receiving systems. And in quite many cases, when using only the schema as a validating the data, it pops up that the content is not correct or it's not sufficient enough, and it needs to be corrected. Usually it requires manual work. And of course, in some cases, the whole invoice must be rejected afterwards, and then it must be returned to the sender. But with the Schematrons, this should improve the quality, like I said, and the invoice data content can be checked on the deeper level on the recipient side. So the invoice with the incorrect data, in such case, it can be rejected directly and returned to the sender without delivering to the recipient at all. So the sender's operator can also act as a guardian here. So they can take care of the sufficient data quality in this case. And the good thing here is that the erroneous invoices, they don't end up in the recipient systems in such case. So there is less extra work on the recipient side. Using the Schematron for the purchase invoices. So this is what the operator group have agreed, that we start validating the invoices what we receive if the invoice is marked to be according to the European norm. So if we follow this image from left to right, there's a sender, and then there is a sender's operator, e-invoicing operator, or the bank. This is a four-corner model, even though they are not corners, there's only straight lines. And on the right-hand side of the picture, there is the receiving operator or the receiving bank and the recipient. And the green lines here, or the green arrows here, describes the steps where we have where we know and where we have agreed to do the EN validation. So in such case, when there's an invoice according to the European norm, it will be validated using the Schematron here. And of course, there are, for example, banks in Finland that may have some kind of dual roles here. In such case that the invoice is created in bank's own system, the bank is in such case the sender or the sender's software house, like said. So in that case, if the invoice is created in the bank's own system, the first arrow should turn to green, since the banks should do the validation in their own systems in such case. But the information what I have received, that if bank is only relaying the message to the recipient side, in such case the bank doesn't do the validation. So that is the latest information what I have heard. So in some cases, those invoices are validated, and in some cases not. But it is enough that there is at least one green arrow on the line where the message goes through, that can ensure that the recipient doesn't receive invalid invoices. And like I said, this has been agreed to take in use from the 1st of April 2021 onwards. So currently we are transmitting those invoices, but we are not rejecting them yet. We are just collecting the sufficient data to be sure that what is the data quality and how many invoices would have been rejected at the moment, but they are not yet. And based on those results, we can make a well, probably we can make a decision that this date is valid, but of course there is always a possibility to postpone it if it seems that the data quality is still quite bad. About the development team and the further work with the Schematron. So the Schematron, it will be developed still, and it will be developed based on the proposals what we have, what we will receive and what we have received. Of course, there will and could be changes in the standard and some nationally agreed changes. The Schematron will be developed by the working group mentioned earlier: CGI, Finance Finland, Posti Messaging, Rauppakapital, Tietoeri, and also the state treasury is now taking part in the development group work. This Schematron, this is for sale from TIEKE. The price is 2,500 euros plus VAT. Plus, then there will be a small annual maintenance fee to cover the changes and the further development of these Schematron files. Of course, there are another options, another commercial products than this one, but this is the one what the operators in Finland use. There is a link where you can find the page and buy this Schematron for your own use. You can use it supporting your own business, but you are not allowed to sell it or give the Schematron files to anyone, but you can use it to make your own business. That was it.
Hello, Henrik from InExchange Sweden here.
Hello.
A question regarding this image then, and but I don't guess if a public recipient wants to receive an invoice and they use a bank as an operator, then according to the European invoice directive, they must receive an invoice that's validated according to the European norm, but maybe then they can't if they are using only the bank, or how come the banks are?
Well, of course, in such case, the recipient can do the validation by themselves.
Yeah.
But in such case, they will receive the invoice in their system, and then they have to do the rejection in their own systems. But if they use an operator or bank who can do the validation, let's say the operator or the bank can do it on behalf of them, and it doesn't require any extra work from the recipient side in such case. So there's like a gatekeepers there.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Thanks.
So there are 4 parties here, and all of them they can do the validation. But of course, if the invoice is validated somewhere else, the recipient doesn't have to do the validation if they want to be sure that the invoice is according to the European norm. Of course, not all the invoices are according to the European norm, so there is that difference also. And those invoices will be validated only against the schema.
I could also for the Swedish market.
Please, Henrik.
Yeah, and for the Svefaktura is well, there is a Schematron, but it's quite crappy, I think. So there is, I would say, control-ish. The other traffic, Peppol traffic, is of course the Schematron validated. That's for Sweden.
And I think that Norway is de facto using the Peppol only, and the Peppol invoices, they must be validated. So there's a different rules. Let's say there's a bit stricter rules when using the Peppol and the Peppol validations than there are in Finland. So.
Yeah, and for Denmark, there is also quite it's kind of Schematron validation for UBL, and they are also moving over towards Peppol in a way. So it will be there also.
And Pirkko Vedenpää asked whether this question, the Peppol network validate invoices, they have EU norm validation and also their own title validation rules. So. But how about validation in other countries? You also only discussed about the Nordics, Germany, Baltic states, for example.
Well, of course, it depends the local legislations there. So in the EU, there is this European norm that must be followed, and there can be some kind of country specific differences. But this tool what we have created, this is for the domestic market, so the Finnish market here. And well, I think that the Peppol is quite widely used in Europe, but I know that there are some country-specific limitations, and I think that it's if the operator has interconnectivity to other countries, if there is like a bilateral agreements, and probably in that case there must be some kind of specific Schematrons or other tools to validate the invoices, but this is not probably the answer. This Schematron is probably not the answer if you want to send invoices to some other country. This is not 100% compliant with all the countries.
Yeah, exactly as you said. The domestic invoice formats in the different countries it's starting to be a mess. I posted a link from the EU register of the different sizes started to be used in the different countries in Europe, and it's spiraling out of hands already. So it will be an interesting future.
I totally agree with you, Henrik. So maybe in future we will have one common European or hopefully worldwide.
Yeah, one format to rule them all. One ring to rule them all. Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Terje, and I'm from Stora Enso side, but I just new in e-invoicing side, and I have one question regarding to understand this Schematron a little bit deeper. That do I understand correctly that if invoice is not including all these EU standards? For example, if sender is this first one operator to operator, and sender is sending invoice without all EU standards, then already the first operator will reject it or send the information to the sender that, hey, you have to correct the invoice, or how it will work?
Yeah, so in this Finnish format, you can mark the invoice whether it's according to the European standard or not, and only in such case that you have marked the sender has marked the invoice to be according to the European standards, then the Schematron validation will be used, and then it is either the sender's operator or the recipient's operator or the recipient who do the validation and should reject the invoice if it's not fulfilling the standard. So if it doesn't pass this Schematron validation, it should be rejected to the previous party of this chain. Okay. But of course, you can have the invoices that are not marked to be according to the European norm, the European standard. And in such case, it's enough that it fulfills the schema.
Okay, I think we will accept only this, could say this Schematron validation, because we want a lot of information that should be in the invoices. So, but yeah, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. Well, in Finland, according to law, there is a, let's say that there is a, the Finnish government, they did a small addition to the EU directive, and it says that or in the B2B sector, the recipient has a right to request invoices according to the European norm. So the recipient can request to have the invoices according to European norms. So let's say any business who has annual turnover more than 10,000 euros can have the invoices according to European norm by request. The public sector must be able to take the invoices take the invoices and process the invoices if anyone sends the invoices to them according to European norm. So that's the small difference there, that the public sector must be able to process the invoices, but the non-public sector, they can request the invoices.
Yes, and in Finland, during this year, there has been questions about what is meant by the request concerning about the private companies. Can they demand that they get all the invoices in European norm, EU invoices or not? What is meant by the requests? But at least, there's also few big Finnish companies has announced that the next year they are going to accept only invoices in EN form.
Yes, and that is totally understandable, since the processing of the invoices would be much smoother if there is more accurate data content. Yeah, if the recipient has requested the invoice to be according to the European standard, the sender should create the invoice according to the European standard. The sender must mark also that this invoice follows the European standard. So there is a field, or there is a element in that XML that can tell that this invoice is or is not according to European standard. And in such case, it must be validated against the Schematron. And yeah, so if the invoice is marked according to the European norm, it will be validated. Nevertheless, if the recipient is in the public sector or not. But if anyone sends the invoice to public sector, it can be according to the European standard, and the recipient must be capable to process it, the public sector recipient. That this is the exception in the Finnish legislation, that the recipient has an opportunity to request the invoices according to the European standard, and that is not in the original directive, but that's some kind of stricter limitation in the Finnish legislation.